everyone. Watch out.
Oh, that's good.
Wouldn't you like to know what he's doing?
Drinking cold water.
I'm sure.
And parting razor blades.
And we're back with another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Lakers Fast Break. Pop Culture Cosmos, where we cover the latest news and trends in pop culture each and every day. Right there for you, but twice a week, wherever you get your podcast. Plus also as well, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Oh my gosh. You guys are awful. Thought you always talk.
I started hearing how I might have sounded on that one.
And this comes from the guy who preaches, oh, this is not professional. Oh, this is not broadcast quality. Blah, 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 blah. And then you start the show like this.
Look, man, I got my polo shirts. I'm still professional. I comb my hair. I got a nice mic. Come on. Saying a couple jokes doesn't mean we're not classy.
We're not classy. But also as well, go ahead and check us out, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, where these two classy guys, were helping Chris Lardieri and myself out on the latest edition of Inside Sports Fantasy Football, where they actually gave some really good insight on Week 4 in the NFL and also Week 3 in the NFL as well. So go ahead and check it out today, Inside Sports Fantasy Football. I highly recommend if you do. Plus also as well, of course, LakersBall.com. Go ahead and check out the guy right there. Of course, Joe Soro is Ox1947 at LakersBall.com. Plus, he owns a company that he's been working hard at today because he could not stop by for our shows because he was dealing with everything Simblades. Simblades with a Y.com. Plus, also as well, of course, our good friends, Laker Tom, who was on earlier with us for the great interview we had with Rich 2 from Let's Go Warriors. He was a part of that. Go ahead and check out what the number one Lakers blogger is doing today at Lakerholics.com, along with our good friend, Mr. Jamie Sweet, Admiral Akbar himself. He's Mr. 5 Things. Go ahead and check out how he's making Laker Tom's life miserable each and every day at Lakerholics.com. Plus also as well, our good friends Empire Jeff TV. You know, he did a great job as far as covering the Damian Lillard trade. So go ahead and hear his thoughts on his latest stream there on YouTube and subscribe. Also subscribe to our good friend John McCallion. You know, he's still trying to go ahead and get that goal of 130 pounds lost by Halloween. Go ahead and hear the inspiring talk that he is doing each and every time out at the John McCallion channel. And speaking of subscribing, there's the little Joe on the right next to the big Joe. Please click on the little Joe with the beady eyes right there for you. So you are now subscribed. And plus, if you subscribe, you know, you also hear that nice little catchphrase that Sean has for if you subscribe. And if you do, you'll be getting the latest notifications on when we go live on the air with the latest Lakers Fast Break podcast. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us late night with the Lakers Fast Break. I was going to save this for Friday, but I figure since every other Lakers podcast that's important that's out there is going to be talking about what went on earlier today. The vaunted Lakers press conference with Coach Darvin Ham and, of course, GM Rob Pelinka. They were there. You know, those days where we couldn't find Rob Pelinka. Well, they're no more when the Lakers are winning. They're out there and out in front talking their usual GM speak and coach speak right now earlier today. So we're going to go ahead and wade into what was real and legit and what is actually just stuff, hot air that you could just go ahead and toss to the side. We're going to discuss that today on this program. But here today, first up, first man here, good man indeed. It is the madman from Toronto. You got to go ahead and check us out every time he's here. He did get out of Toronto traffic to go ahead one more time to talk the Lakers today. It is the Magic Man, Sean Grice. And Magic Man, good to have you here as always. Well, Intel Wild in the super chat, once again, much appreciated. He says, Joe, so nice of you to join us today. Magic Man, you're here. Did you get a chance to see the words? And I'll go ahead and read you some of the quotes later on as far as is concerned. We can weed out what was good and what was not. So, what's the first topic that you think that we need to cover on the show when it concerned the words that were said earlier today by Rob Pelinka and Darvin Ham? Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I was quick on the trigger finger myself. That was my bad. My bad. So go ahead. and
Uh,
Joe,
yeah.
and Joe, so nice of you to join us as well.
Thank you, Joseph, for arriving. Probably what Pelinka said about the back-to-back show. That was probably the only thing he said today that wasn't full of you know what.
Yes, full of you know what indeed. Well, elaborate more in detail because he made the comment that
He
he is.
basically
Yeah.
he made the assertion that if the NBA wants to solve the issue of load management, that they should just discard the idea of back to backs altogether.
Okay, because he did state that he actually petitioned to the league, or talked to the league, reached out to the league. He
I
did
think he
something
said,
in
yeah,
official manner.
he suggested that
Okay.
that's a road they should go down.
Okay.
And usually, Gerald, usually when somebody's out in front like this, it's usually not a lone wolf.
Yeah.
He hasn't gone rogue here. I'm sure at least half a dozen, if not more, GMs probably signed on to what he was saying.
Okay. Let me give you the exact quotes, and this is from Dave McMenamin on Twitter. Rob Pelinka says he has advocated to the NBA's competition committee for the complete elimination of back-to-backs in future NBA scheduling in order to solve the player risk quandary that has damaged fan interest in the overall product. Ooh, that was fancy. That was pretty good. Your thoughts on that, my friend, before I hand it over to Joe?
Yeah, like they're not going to do it, but that's the logical deduction to make to actually try and solve the issue, Gerald. But they're not going to do it.
Okay.
They're
That's
not
what
going to do it. It's just Gerald. You know as well as I do, they're not going to shorten the schedule. They're not going to do it,
no,
and
no,
they're
because that
not
would be
going
less money.
exactly, and they're not going to shorten up the playoffs either. So that could ever be a best of 5 ever again. It's
There's some people that said if less games, it would actually mean more revenue for the NBA. I'd like to see how that exactly would
yeah.
generate.
How does that make sense?
Yeah, some people have said that, so I don't know. I'm
A
just
wishing well is that what we're
must be, or
doing?
maybe
Yeah,
generating by more television, or
is
maybe
that is that
attendance
some
would go up,
that's
something
that
like that
sounds
to
like
counteract that.
yeah, that sounds like some Sam Bankman-Fried math there. It doesn't
Yeah,
really make a
absolutely.
whole lot of sense and ends up with somebody going to jail.
Pretty much indeed. But also here today, good man indeed. He is, of course, Ox1947 at LakersBall.com. It is Joe Sorrell from Simblades with a Y.com. And Joe, we'll touch on that first comment by Rob Pelinka, trying to be the good guy, trying to look all good to the players, trying to be that man that actually is looking out for his players because he was once a vaunted agent in the league. Your thoughts on his comments in regards to probably trying to go ahead and get some sway with the NBA and saying, you know what, maybe we don't need those back to backs in the future.
And how are we supposed to eliminate back to backs? Are we going to have a 11-month season?
Looking more and more like it if that would be the case.
More the reason to need more of a regional schedule. We've discussed this summer. We discussed it before this summer. The NBA needs to take on a more regional schedule. If you guys can't play back to backs, making $60 million a year and having all the state of the art medical facilities and all the massages and all the creams and lotions, and it's mind boggling to me that the more money these guys get, the more concessions they want. At what point are you going to give back? When is that going to happen? When is someone going to ask Rob, well, Rob, we're giving you guys more money. We're letting you guys load manage. Well, until this year, probably. We're letting you have your personal things come out and we're supporting you. At what is next? Are we wiping your ass when you go to the bathroom after this? Is that next?
Could be.
The NBA needs to kind of put its foot down at this point. We've said this before. Stop talking about the schedule. Stop talking about the games. And Adam Silver needs to come out in front of this and just say, we are not going to reduce 82 games ever. The owners won't do it. I won't do it. Second, we are not eliminating back-to-backs because we don't want a 12-month freaking season. It's already too long anyways. I actually wanted a 6-month season, honestly, because I think that might actually make you more money because the attention spans might be better when you have 2 less months. So, back to the regional schedule. If you were able to create a schedule where you had back-to-backs, I believe we had one in San Antonio last year, right?
Yes, where they
Do
were there.
more of those. You're not traveling. You're not changing hotels. You're not on a bus. You basically go from the arena. Well, maybe you might go to the bus to get back to the hotel, but you're not driving anywhere. You're not flying anywhere. You're not having to deal with any kind of jet lag or going up 30,000 feet. You're just traveling at a short distance to a hotel and then coming back again that next day. Start thinking smart, guys. Start thinking smart. Now, if you're telling me, Joe, it's impossible to have all these things work out in a schedule because the stadiums need to have certain concessions to concerts and this and that and the holidays. Okay, that's probably why they haven't done it. And here's my answer to that. Grow some nuts, players. You have all the resources on the planet for recovery. You're getting paid a crap load of money to do what you're doing. Play the damn 82 games during the year. Shut up. And if you have a problem with it, make the next collective bargaining agreement say, well, if you want to take if you want to Cedric Sabalas and go to Lake Havasu for a week, sure. But that little salary that you like to get every week, are they going to do that? No.
And it's also a complicated issue, Gerald, because you're also dealing with arena availability as well. These arenas book these dates, and they expect to be compensated for it. So, if the NBA decided to go this route, there'd be a lot of legal and litigious hurdles, I think, because how much money do the Lakers generate from the average game at the arena formerly known as Staples Center?
At the Crypt?
The arena formerly known as the Staples Center. Yes.
Okay. And I'm assuming $20 million per game.
Per game? Okay.
I'm just average. I'm just guessing.
Yeah. So if you eliminated like 6 back-to-backs, they're probably doing the math. That's somewhere like $150 million. That's a lot of money, especially for them when they book these events like months in advance. That's another complication. But that's an interesting idea he has, though. At least he's trying to find tangible solutions. I don't think it would actually work realistically, but at least he's trying to find solutions to a problem that they're actually acknowledging it exists and it's permeated.
Once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. We are talking about the press conference earlier on Thursday with Rob Pelinka, general manager of the Lakers, and head coach of the Lakers, Darvin Ham. Want to go ahead and mention to you, Joe, something that Intel Wild brought up in the super chat. And thank you so much again for your generosity, Intel. It is truly much and very much appreciated by all of us here at the Lakers Fast Break. He says eliminating back-to-backs would benefit the players, but not the fans/viewers, aka the people actually paying the high ticket prices for all this bleep. Your thoughts on that, my friend?
A lot of times fans, at least these days, go to the game to boast about how they went to an NBA game. I don't know necessarily if they're And that might be why it doesn't matter if people show up. We saw during the pandemic that the NBA and most of these big leagues don't really necessarily need the fans. It's just the cherry on the top in terms of revenue. I don't I don't believe anyone cares about the fans. I think if they cared about the fans, they wouldn't have had to been forced to make these rules for players to be available. It has to be in you. Rob mentioned a few times about Austin Reeves, about having that Mamba mentality. Mamba mentality isn't about being, if you have to be told that you need to play, I mean, what is, how does that make you feel as a man and as a player, as a professional, that you have to be told and you have to have rules telling you, hey, you need to play, especially when you're making 30, 40, and $50 million a year. So at the end of the day, I don't think Rob, players, I don't think any of these people give two craps about the fans. They look at it as fans, media typically are more negative than positive, and they'll give you the rhetoric, but I don't think they really care too much about that. And I can go back and forth on whether they should or not, because I know again that most of these people, I've been to, last game I went to was the POW ceremony. I think I saw more people taking pictures of themselves than actual taking pictures of Pau Gasol. I mean, these people are so in love with themselves, with their selfies and their cell phones, and they're just jerk off lifestyles. I don't know really what that, are they there to watch basketball, or are they just there to post stuff on Instagram? So sometimes both parties kind of kill each other on that, and it doesn't really do anything. But for me, as a basketball guy who enjoys watching basketball and celebrating greatness, great basketball players, great games, things that matter, I prefer watching the game, whether it's a back-to-back, whether it's between 3 games. It doesn't matter to me. I just want to watch basketball. And I actually watch the games, guys. I get there before the game starts, and I leave when the clock says 0. Okay? I don't walk in, slap my ham for about 2 quarters, then sit down for about 5 minutes, then go to the concession stand, slop some hot dogs and garbage down my throat, watch the game for 5 minutes, get back up, go get another couple slops of food and drinks or whatever the hell they do, and then leave early on top of that. Like, what are you doing here? You just paid $200 to $300 for a ticket to eat overpriced trash and watch the game for maybe a quarter and a half? You see where I'm going here, guys?
Yeah, I don't. I will refuse to allow hot dogs to be blasphemed in my presence. What did hot dogs ever do to you?
Well, do you know what they're made out of?
You know
That might
what?
be the first problem.
He's right about them being overpriced at the games. He's right about them being overpriced. I don't buy them at the games. I buy street meat. That is the best kind. And that's what you should buy before the game.
Street meat still costs $8 for a hot dog.
And it's
I finally just said,
it's
I gotta get some of this. I gotta get some of these at home and just make it at home when I need it.
They're delicious. But yeah, go ahead, Joe.
What I'm trying to say is I'm trying to give you guys a visual of what these guys likely think of the audience. And I feel pretty confident that this is in private. This is probably in their own minds what they think, because the results are what they are. These guys, you think Kawhi Leonard really cares about fans? He doesn't care about fans. He doesn't care about anything except doing what he wants to do. And he's looked on as this enigma, introvert, whatever. And there's some romance in that, but at the same time, it's not. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about being a professional. We saw what he did in San Antonio. We've seen what he's done in LA. He is not a professional. He is a elite player, or at least might have been, or is starting to go down from that. But he doesn't care about the league. He doesn't give a crap about anything. James Harden, you think James Harden cares about the NBA and its flourishing future of anything? These guys don't care. Guys like Kobe cared. Guys like Jordan cared. Shaq, you can say even cared, even though he was more revolved around what he wanted to do. But you don't have a league that cares a lot, or players, or the star players that care a lot. And I'm not trying to just bag on the current stuff. I'm sure Larry Bird probably didn't care too much about outside the noise, fans, and all that. But at the same time, Larry played
every
the way
day.
the fans wanted a player
Every day, unless he was hurt, he played all the time.
Right.
And his terseness and his like short temper had more to do with him. Like Joe, he wasn't a good interview. He wasn't really an interesting person to talk to. If you wanted to know about Larry Bird, watch the game of basketball. Watch the game of basketball. He was a very boring person outside of that, and it came.
I actually think he was Belichick before Belichick. I saw the interview after Rodman's comments when him and Isaiah sat, and I thought his response and the way he delivered it was as good of a interview as you can. He's like, basically, I'm paraphrasing here. He basically said, "Look, I don't care. I don't care, why do you guys care so much? I'm the one that got insulted. I'm telling you, I don't care, but everyone cares." And that was always what came out of Larry Bird that was so, to me, entertaining. And for him, in terms of his real disdain for the outside noises, he didn't like the BS. He didn't like that the media would attack and do certain things that weren't true. That's really the issue that he had, which is a valid issue.
So I basically, I'm 70-30 on this. I agree 70% with what Intel said, and I agree like with a lot of what Joe had to say. I will say this: during the pandemic, we were all getting used to. Gerald, everything
Yes.
all right?
Everything's good, man. What's
all
up?
Right. You had your eyes closed there for like a second or so.
No, I'm just actually. Did I?
Starting. You did.
I was contemplating life as I know it. Then
you're not dying on us, are you?
No, I hope not. Absolutely not. But no, I'm actually just trying to line up everything for the Lakerholic Spotlight on Saturday.
Oh well. Anyway, I was just gonna say, so we were getting along pretty well with during the pandemic of our lives without sports, and then all of a sudden, the TV networks called up, ring, 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 all these leagues and said, "So what are you doing? We're paying a lot of money here." And they decided to come back. And yeah, they did it without fans, but eventually they brought the fans back. And if they didn't care about the fans, they wouldn't have also put the product on TV. They could have blacked it all out, Gerald, in Florida.
They say I'm already out for the count, but unfortunately,
and
I've got more shows I got to edit, so I'm going to be up all night. No worries. But go ahead.
Yeah. So in that sense, sure. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, they don't care in the sense that they don't really care about the fans' preferences, but they do care about eyeballs, Joe. They always have and always will. That's why there's something called the Nielsen TV ratings. People still pay attention to that, so obviously they have to care a little bit about what the fans' input is about their product. I mean, entertainment's a funny thing, isn't it, Gerald? It's a commodity.
I'm glad you see it that way. Yes.
Yeah. So what's good today isn't what's in fashion tomorrow. A la mode. So right now, a lot of people want to point to, Gerald. A lot of people use this lazy conflation of Jordan's last appearance in the finals compared to what the final ratings are today. It's really lazy, and it's specious reasoning too, because there wasn't the population explosion that we've had in the 25 years since that. The people's viewing habits about what they watch, Gerald, has changed completely, as you know more than most people. So I think it is evident that at some level they do have to care about
Yeah.
what people think about the product.
Well, I'll tell you what, though, one of the other things that was discussed in this press conference, as we thought something I thought was legit, where Rob Pelinka again was, trying to go ahead and see what the league can do, whether you like it or not, whether the league would like it or not, whether the players would like it or not, to end back to backs or to reduce the schedule. That was something that was inferred as well. But I want to go ahead and ask about something that was also mentioned, and this kind of irritated me because we're going to go again. Something good and something maybe not so good was mentioned in this press conference each and every time out. So Dave McMenamin also reported that Rob Pelinka, in praising Austin Reeves' growth in his time with the franchise, says that Reeves has the Mamba gene. So, Joe, when you hear this, there are people out there like me there because my eyes are going to roll. Because again, we've talked about this before. He needs to develop his own path. Stop trying to throw any Laker goodness over Kobe's way and say that, Kobe's Mamba gene is the only reason why he has that drive. It's not just a Mamba gene. I understand what it represents and the whole 9 yards of it, but I wish they would just go ahead and let him be his own person and develop on his own without trying to attach him so hard to Kobe Bryant or anything relating to him.
So that's the catchphrase now. It's
Got to
the
be Mamba. Always got to
it's
throw
the it's
Mamba
the
for the
pop
rest of
it's the
rest of
pop
time.
it's the pop word. It's the feel good word. And I'm sorry to say this, but Kobe is guilty of this as well by saying things like Russell Westbrook had a little bit of that Mamba thing. With all due respect to Kobe and Rob Pelinka, there's only two players I've ever seen that had the Mamba mentality, and that's Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant in my viewing life. So I think everyone needs to stop being Joe Rogan and saying that every goddamn thing is the greatest thing that ever lived in the history of civilization every 5 minutes. Austin Reeves is doing something that's very, very rare, and that is being a close to an all-star type player who wasn't drafted. That in itself is enough to praise. You don't need to continue to suck the teat on this guy's talent. Let him be. Okay. Saying these things is just for guys that are this intelligent, like Rob Pelinka is not a dumb guy. It sounds stupid. And I'm not really gonna say it. It puts pressure on Austin. It's just a stupid thing to say. No one has the Mamba mentality that I've seen in basketball, except for two guys. Yes, just two guys. So why continue to just say things that are not true? They are not true. And it's not a big deal. I get the compliments. I get all that. And we have this show for this purpose, and we'll probably always be the rogue show. We'll never be part of Lakers Live. We'll never be, part of the Laker contingency.
We'll never be with the in
you
crowd.
guys might be. You guys might be. And I think you guys should prepare for that, because you guys are nice enough and respectful enough at the same time to probably coalesce. Is that the word I'm thinking about, Sean? And that's fine.
I already told Shaw that I wish you and I were at that press conference.
I just want to say that there is this when you get, at least from my perspective, when you get older, the reason why it sounds like older people are more decrepit and mean and grouchy, it's that They have lived through a life of BS so much that they just realize almost everything is, and they don't have any time for it anymore. Maybe we were more tolerable when we were children because we had no choice. We were children around adults. Then you become a college student, and then you become an adult. Then you have a family, or you don't, or whatever, and you got all these life experiences. And then after a while, you're just like, is everything just a pile of crap? Like, am I hearing these things right? I listened to the entire 57-minute and 26-second interview with Rob Pelinka and Darvin Ham. And before the show even started, I was already getting ready for the cringe comments.
That one made me roll my eyes.
And it happened. It happened pretty quick. But then you got some information, and then you got the cliche stuff, probably 30 minutes out of that 27.6, I should say. And then Darvin Ham made the ultimate mistake that most people make when you hang on long enough with someone. When I say hang on long enough, if you ever been to a party, or you ever been to a meeting, or you've ever been around someone that you don't know, the longer you talk to that person, the more likely you're going to find out how different they are from the first 20 seconds you've met them until the last 20 seconds before you leave. And believe me when I say this, when he divulged the first two starting lineups, when he had said at the beginning of the interview he had not made that decision, you knew right there, you're like, Darvin, you have no damn idea what the hell you're talking about in this interview. You got played. If you were playing poker, somebody would have just clowned you in this, right? And he also said something that I know Z is going to love to hear if she hasn't heard it already, advocating for the non-big situation. I don't want to spoil it for some of you who haven't listened. Okay. But I thought when he went into passion and detail on that, I was just sitting there in the car going, oh, man. We're going to see Gabe Vincent, D'Angelo, and Reeves running a lot. Be prepared for it.
Be prepared. I just didn't think there was not a chance for it. I just absolutely, you could see the writing on the wall from the get-go. As soon as he was brought on that was going to be the case or something like that. It's what we'll be seeing here at multiple times. And get ready for the Z rants, I'm sure, as well. Intel Wild, thank you so much again for your kind generosity. Intel Wild says, so who, Joe, is the better athlete today? And I'll bring this also to Sean as well. Of course, you guys are the encyclopedias of the show. The players from the 70s, 80s, 90s versus the 2000s. 70 players played 3 games in a row. Today, these babies cry about having 2 games back to back.
Well, tough is an interesting word. I don't think it has anything to do with probably toughness. I think it's more of a mental just entitlement. It's a mental entitlement. And if you want to argue the game is different because the game is faster, stronger, and bigger, first of all, it's not bigger. That we know for a fact. There was much bigger players in the 90s from my recollection. Not just centers either. I'm talking about power forwards, legitimate guys that were 6'9", 250
pounds. Yeah, bulk was big in the 90s too, Joe.
Absolutely. It was big. Excluding the bigs like Patrick Ewing, Alonzo Mourning, and Dikembe Mutombo, like Anthony Mason. If you ever saw that guy in real life,
let me throw a name out at you. Steven Scheffler.
Yo,
that guy was a brick house at 6'10". Yeah. And, he actually had a decent mid-range game. But, my God, that guy, if you tested him, he probably just put you over his knee and just, snap you in half.
Antonio Davis, Dale Davis. If you don't stand next to Shaq, those guys could engulf anyone on the planet, right? It's only Shaq. It's only Shaq that can stand next to those guys and make them look human, right? So you can't tell me the size is different. It's actually different the other way. And then I continue to use the 1992 Knicks box scores for that entire season, where almost every single player in the 7-player lineup played all 82 games, except for one player, Mark Jackson, who played 81. And that team almost took out the Bulls in 7. And they were known at that time as the New Pistons. So you know how they played. So it's a mental problem because you can't sit there and tell me 30 years later with the advancements in recovery, in medicine, the facilities are beyond top notch.
Come on, let's be honest too. Charter flights, they don't have to wait. They don't have to wait in the airports like the dudes in the 60s and the 70s did. They get massages on the plane. Best nutritionist, best maids, best everything. It's not like it used to be. When the Lakers started their 33-game win streak, they started it off of 4 games in 5 nights. I'll repeat that again. The 1971-72 Lakers, who had the 33-game winning streak, which is the longest in NBA history, started it out with 4 games in 5 nights. So Intel has a good point. I will say I'd like to backtrack something Joe was saying, because as he was talking about that Darvin Ham narrative, a scene from a movie just veered right into my brain and basically jackknifed the whole conversation. It's a favorite one. Gerald, I'm sure you remember the movie Rush Hour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you enjoy Rush Hour?
1 was the best one. 2, it's got, of course, with all those 90s sequels, they got decreasingly worse by every single one. 2 actually was okay at best, and then it got proceeded worse. But 1 is the best one. Anybody out there will tell you that.
Yes. So Jackie Chan probably has the best quote in the whole movie. I let people talk who like to talk. It lets me know how full of shit they really are.
3719. Got it. Okay.
So when Joe was talking about Darvin Ham, that's what popped into my head.
I was really contemplating coming, because I listened to the entire 57 plus minutes on my way back to the studio here. I had a lot of driving going on today. Today was the driving day, so I had some time to listen on some things. And I'm sitting there listening to the interview going, God, everyone is so positive. You're reading the responses on that video on YouTube, and everyone's like, I can't wait for the season. Oh, Darvin Ham and this and Rob Pelinka, that. And I'm sitting there going, I just wish sometimes I didn't have that BS meter constantly going day in and day out. I wish I was a positive guy, and I'm like, yeah, they're happy and they're excited and they're complimenting everyone. I really do sometimes wish I could live that life, because I think maybe you live happier that way.
You'd be happier, Joe.
But I'm pretty happy though. I live a great life.
I know you tell us that. Like, okay, there's death, taxes.
His last name's Sorrow. His last name is Sorrow. There's not a whole lot of sorrow in his life.
But Magic Man, there's death, taxes, and Joe Sorrow telling us how wonderful his life is every 2 weeks.
You can come. Well, I want to let you know that, because I don't want you guys to think that I'm.
Well, they were worried about you earlier today. Where's Joe? Where's Joe?
Well, I wasn't available anywhere until about 40 minutes ago.
Intel Wild even put in a super chat because he was worried about you.
No, I'm around. It's just I got things I gotta take care of. It's what it is. But the easiest thing to do, and I've said this to several friends that have wanted to, see what's going on. I said, look, just shadow me for a week or 2, and you'll see what I do.
Do I have to?
Oh, I don't want you with me. What, are you crazy?
Intel Wild says, I know this is the Lakers Fast Break channel, but maybe the GJS show. There you go.
What's the GJS show?
Our 3 initials.
Joe.
Our 3 initials.
Hello. Hello. I like the fact that Darren's comment is, if anyone out there isn't drinking, please raise your hand.
See, the key, Dante, is being authentic is a very interesting word because
That's one way to say it.
you've heard people say, well, this guy he tells you what's on his mind. But you got to be careful of those guys too sometimes. At the end of the day, I can prove what you see is what you get even in real life, right? Like everyday life. So be careful of those people. It's like those people that always tell you they're always busy. They're busy and they're busy and they're busy. What that really means is that they don't really value you at all, right? And most of those people who say they're busy are slapping their hands busy. They're not really busy. What's busy mean? I'm busy. And I'll tell you right now, 6 hours out of that busy, I cannot be busy if I don't want to. People just manifest that busyness. Doing what? Looking at your phone? Like, what do you do for 6 hours while you're busy? Like, are you actually working? Like, are you actually working? Are you in the house working on something in the garage? It doesn't necessarily have to be your work. Are you productive? Like sometimes I power wash my trash cans because I don't want them to be dirty, right? That's busy, doing something productive. But are you busy at work? Are you really working? Or are you scrolling and looking at stuff? So those
you power wash them, but you don't label them, right?
No, they're not.
No,
my
you're
trash
not one
cans.
of those.
I just don't want them to smell.
Guys, are you?
I don't want them to smell. I don't want them to smell. That's the main thing.
I agree. Yeah.
Because right now it's getting colder, so it'll be fine. Like I don't usually power wash them when it's cold. It's when it's hot where certain things might drop off and it might get kind of whatever. But anyways,
Joel,
the point is,
Joe.
Yeah.
You live in Temecula, California. I live in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And you just had the nerve to tell me that it's getting cold?
I meant getting cold so that I don't have to wash the cans.
Oh.
That's it.
Okay.
Well, and Dante's saying if Joe wasn't happy, he would not be on this. Dante, please go back in time to Sunday's episode because Joe, the first hour,
that had nothing to do with the show. That was a reaction to an ongoing issue.
That was a
reaction to an ongoing because
he wasn't happy. That's for sure.
No, I was seriously.
I thought he was going to blow his top.
That was one of the most aggravating evenings I've had in a very long time.
Joe, the vein in the side of your head.
And the Steelers won. That's the best part about all of it. But Intel Wild says
the vein in the side of your head looked like an earthworm.
Intel, very kind to you.
It's a family thing.
I'm just kidding.
My
sister has. Really see it.
My sister has that vein that comes out here. So it was principles. We've talked about principles. Principles matter, and we all can't be perfect. We all might be indirectly hypocritical, i.e., I don't like China products, but I have a damn iPhone because what the hell am I going to do is they're not making a goddamn phone that's not made in China or soon to be, it might be, veering off. But the point is the principles is what matter to me. And everybody has, that's a subjective thing for most people. I'm not expecting people to think the way I do, but the only thing I can do is tell you how I feel. And then, at this point, we watched this interview is what I felt like the beginning of the season starting was today, listening to Rob and Darvin, that was a good part. The problem is I'm not very good at this, the rhetoric of these things. I can't listen to pregame. I popped in the prime thing with the game today with the Lions and Packers. In the first 10 seconds of the pregame talk, I started listening to that crew talk, and I'm like, God, what the hell is this trash? just utter trash. These pregame shows have just become garbage. And I said, no. And I ended up not even watching the game. I got so turned off by it. I'm over listening to people who really have just a generic, basic tone and delivery to everything. I don't want to. It does no benefit. It does zero benefit, and I don't want to be that guy that's complaining about it on every show either. I'm not complaining, by the way, about the thing. We're just deciphering what they said. This isn't a complaint.
It's bland, Joe.
It's bland. So bland. I'm done with bland, guys. I want relevant information, okay? Darvin Ham, when asked about the starting lineup, what I will give credit to is there was some great questions from the media today. Great. There was this one lady. They didn't say the name, but it was like halfway through the interview. And she asked, she's the one that kind of propelled the starting lineup divulging of the starting lineup. And I wanted to find out, you already kind of pussyfooted around it. Just say it. What's your starting lineup in your head? You know what, guys? I'm thinking we're going to run with D'Lo, Austin Reeves, which we know already that's going to be them two. Obviously, Anthony Davis and LeBron. Who's the fifth Beatle? If you're going to run with Austin and D'Angelo, it's very likely you're going to run with Vando at the 3, right? Because you're going to put LeBron at the 4, right? Just say it. That's what I'm thinking of doing. And if things change, but they don't do that. I don't know. I don't get it. Like, does it matter? Is your enemies going to find you out now, telling us what's going on 3 weeks before training camp starts? I don't know. I don't get it.
Before I touch on, and once again, it's the Lakers Fast Break. It is Joe Soro along with Magic Man Sean Grice. It is me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much for watching, listening. Truly appreciate it. We're talking about the press conference earlier today with General Manager Rob Pelinka, I guess, according to our audience, in some really tight pants. I didn't check so close, so I don't know. Can't verify. I guess we can all look at pictures.
No.
Not really
Yep.
enthused to do that.
Yep, we took a quick left on that one, Gerald.
Yeah,
Good
exactly.
job.
Well, that was not my comment. That was the comment in our audience earlier today. But also as well, Coach Darvin Ham. Be that as it may. Darren in the super chat said, Joe, could any football team today have a chance against the steel curtain of the late 70s? Excellent question. Would have been great on Sunday. I think that would have cheered Joe up.
It's difficult to do that because you'd have to tell me this is the LeBron Jordan comparison thing, right? So when you try to compare different timelines, ages and eras, okay. So if LeBron was raised in the 70s, he would not be who he is right now. If Michael Jordan was raised in the 90s, he would not be what he was. So if you're talking about, let's say you teleport the 70s Steelers, which, by the way, I want you guys really to understand how talently riddled that team was. I mean, it was so talented, it boggles the mind. The 1974 draft produced 4 Hall of Famers for the Steelers. 4. And their free agent that year, same offseason, Donnie Shell, made the Hall of Fame. 5 Hall of Famers in one offseason. You will never see that in any sport for the rest of your life. And then on top of that, let's talk about the defense. You had L.C. Greenwood, Dwight White, Mean Joe Green, Ernie Holmes. Then you had Andy Russell. Then you had Jack Ham and Jack Lambert. And then you had Mel Blount back there with Donnie Shell. Jesus Christ. If you put those guys today with that mentality and the medicine now and the recovery, those guys would make the Chicago Bears 85 and the Ravens 2000 teams look like children. you just wouldn't have any chance. But the reality is those guys would have never been assembled like that. The salary cap doesn't allow it nowadays. But if you, let's say, had that time machine where you could put it together, I don't think anybody would have. I don't think there was ever a team assembled the way the Steelers 70s team was, because as soon as the Mel Blount rule came in the offseason of 1978, what it did was it made Lynn Swann and John Starworth and, of course, Terry Bradshaw now the focal points of winning those next 2 Super Bowls. So you basically solved one problem and then created another. The first 2 Super Bowls that the Steelers won in 74 and 75 was defense heavy. And then when you changed the rules, you ended up basically creating 2 Hall of Fame receivers and an MVP at quarterback. And of course, you had Franco Harris on that team as well. I mean, you pretty much said, look, we can't beat these guys. They won 4 Super Bowls in 6 years at a time where teams weren't doing that at that time. They just weren't. So, yeah, I'd say in my opinion, as far as a dynasty, I don't think there's ever really been a better dynasty in terms of pure talent and accomplishment than the 70 Steelers. Now, you can, my dad, when we grew up around the Central Valley, we were around a lot of Niners people. I'd say the only argument I have is probably the Niners in the 80s. I thought they were absolutely amazing.
Sean, want to add any 2 cents? Because I've got a question, a basketball Lakers related question on the conference earlier today to ask you next. But did you want to weigh in on that with Joe, or just wanted to make sure? Because you were very insightful on our recent Inside Sports Fantasy Football.
Sure. That was a question from Darren, right? So
he was talking about the Steelers from the Steel Curtain and all
that. I'm guessing we were playing the rules from the 70s then.
That's another thing. Yeah, are we playing the rules from the 70s, Joe? That's the thing.
If that is, then there's no shot.
Yeah,
there's no shot.
Yeah,
Tom Brady.
There's no shot.
Tom Brady plays maybe 15 seasons if that's the case.
Yeah, that's a different story altogether because of exactly what they could do back then and what they can't do right now.
But yeah, Joe hit the nail on the head. Like Joe knows his stuff when it comes to the NFL.
This is true indeed. But before we head on out, we still got a little bit of time left. We want to go ahead and devote to that conference. And one of the other notes of contention that I have, guys, is something that was said in regards to the starting lineup, which everybody seems to be thinking about as the $64,000 question. So Magic Man, he said definitively, like we all shouldn't have already known this, D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves are the starting guards. D'Angelo Russell is the starting point guard. LeBron James and AD are part of the starting lineup. And yet he also said that there were 3, possibly even 4 individuals that could vie for that final starting piece, including, of course, Rui Hachimura, Jared Vanderbilt, Taurean Prince, he mentioned also as well, and the X Factor, who I will get to a little bit later on in a little bit more detail, because he was also brought up for discussion, Christian Woods. So your thoughts on the comments by Darvin Ham on the starting lineup as he sees it right now?
Yeah, Gerald, I guess that's kind of that's Ham kind of covering all bases.
Like they don't have a clue.
Yeah, for speculation, because like you said and Joe said, and I
sounds like they
don't have
well, it sounds like Rob got together with Darvin Ham and the coaches, and they all asked, okay, who do you think should be the 5th starter? And each one gave a different answer, it sounds like. So it's going to have to be proven out in training camp, my friend.
Yeah, exactly, Gerald. And to be fair, when I was interviewing Chris Hine, Chris basically said that at this point, Taurean Prince is a 3. He's pretty much there to guard 3s. He can't really guard 4s. He's not really going to be asked to play the 4. He shouldn't.
He played a lot of 4 though.
He played a lot of 4 for Minnesota, but again, as Chris said, that was out of necessity, Joe. It wasn't because they wanted him to play the 4.
Okay.
It sounds like, well, Gerald, if Prince is your 3, then LeBron is your 4. You can't have LeBron as your 3 and Prince as
You
your 4.
you and I discussed this ad
Yeah,
nauseum.
yeah,
You do not
yeah.
want a 38-year-old
Year-old
man, no
playing
matter yeah,
uh-uh,
because
uh-uh.
he only does that when he feels like that energy or somebody talks smack to him, that he feels
And I
frisky
don't
and does that. But he
right,
only does
right,
that for like 10 minutes,
right,
every other game or every 3 games or whatnot, where he
right.
tries to turn back the clock on the defensive end. He doesn't really want to chase around screens. So like you said, we got to have a Prince or Vando or a Rui to do that for him as far as at the 3 slot. So I get that.
Yeah, and look, let's be honest here. The Lakers had really good defensive numbers with Vando at the 4. But the fact is, Gerald, is that Rui and Vando pretty much have. I think Rui has a slightly larger wingspan, maybe a half an inch or so. Uh, but Rui's the better athlete, Gerald. Rui's the better athlete. He's better leaper, a little
Lost
stronger.
weight.
Lost weight. He's a little stronger. Vando's quicker, more agile, twitchy. I mean, but Gerald, we talked about this almost ad nauseum too. And if Vando isn't your 4 and he isn't in the starting lineup, it's really hard to justify putting him in the lineup for a game then, because what's he offering for you off the bench? No 3 and D player. Uh,
Well, the thing was that was noted was the X factor, and this will lead me into my next question or next item of contention in regards to Christian Wood, Joe, being the X factor on this equation as far as the starting lineup is concerned. Is that a possibility, a reality, or is this the verbiage you're going to be hearing because they want to go ahead and placate him as much as possible? Because a lot of placating need to be done. In the next statement by Rob Pelinka, which I will state next, that has to be in order to soothe the, I guess I don't know what to talk about as far as the ego per se of Christian Wood or whatnot, but it just seems like already the conversations in this press conference sound like there's a lot of soothing, that a lot of confidence building that needs to be done for Christian Wood, and throwing him in there as an X factor seems to be part of that mix.
It's interesting. Someone on our panel had mentioned that there's a beat writer for the Lakers
Yes.
who said that Taurean Prince might play the 3. Now, from my recollection, Taurean Prince struggled greatly on defense. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the starting lineup, because that would fit Darvin Ham's infatuation with the 3-guard lineup. But how do you run a defense and keep AD from getting abused for an 82-game season if you have a perimeter lineup of 3 guys who don't play defense well? Are they going to magically play well as a unit? I'd have to see it, but if that's what you are trying to get at, okay. And then on top of that, you have LeBron, who cannot play defense for 30 to 40 minutes of the game that he's playing. He can't play 30 to 40 minutes. Got to be in spurts. Otherwise, you're going to run the wheels off him, and he's going to be worse than he was last year. So I don't really have an answer yet on where this goes, but we're going to know once we know if it's going to be the right move, and then we're going to have to see the execution. Too much, and I expected this, guys. This was not a surprise interview. But I expected the cliche BS. I really did. And maybe that's just what these guys do to just kind of keep things at bay. I watched Bull Durham. I get it, know your cliches and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, guys, the execution of Darvin Ham's rotation is going to play a major part in the success of the Lakers in 2024. If he screws this up, it will not be good, because if he screws it up, it likely means he uses LeBron and AD to the point where they're not going to be fresh when it matters. And a little bit of concern for me is when I heard LeBron is taking this year like he's a rookie. He's training like he's a rookie.
Best shape of his life.
Okay, guys. I get it. But that's a stupid comment. It's a stupid comment. He's going into his 21st season, and you already saw him die out in that Denver series. Stop insulting everyone's intelligence. Stop massaging everyone's bum so that they get excited. Just stop talking like idiots, like we're stupid. I know a lot of people out there are stupid and they want to hear that stuff, but there's some people out here that are not stupid and have a brain and have common sense. Can you cater to us? Can you cater to us? Listen, guys, LeBron is going into his 21st season. Part of our program this year is to make sure he is fresh. He is training like it's his rookie year, but you all know it's his 21st season. It's going to be very important to preserve LeBron, and we're going to do everything we can to do that. That would be a little bit more respectful to me instead of, well, he's doing everything he's doing, and man, he's like a rookie. Okay, dude, come on. Enough of the car salesman stuff. I thought we got finished with this, Rob. I thought this car salesman bit was done. You know, you showed a lot at the trade deadline. You showed a lot this summer. I just feel like every time we go forward, somebody says something that just kind of makes us cycle back. And I want to like
Joe, you know, it's that authentic frontier NBA agent gibberish in the NBA GM seat now. It's gibberish. Authentic frontier, straight from the TMZ gibberish. It's not going to change. I agree with you overall. I mean, you know, the problem is it's that most of these business people today have the narrative that it's ignorance is bliss. And it's better to keep people in the dark than to show what's going on in the light. So that's never going to change, Joe. They're always going to think we're stupid.
One of the things I do want to touch on when it comes to Christian Wood is some of that agent speak. It is, of course, the Lakers Fast Break. I truly appreciate you joining us. Once again, it's Joe Soro, a.k.a. Oxide247, the Magic Man, Sean Grice. I'm Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Rob Pelinka says that he spoke to Christian Wood's agent on a nearly daily basis for several months while pursuing Wood as a free agent this summer. Pelinka said that Wood chose the Lakers over offers from other contenders and cited the way that Malik Monk and Dennis Schroeder came to Lakers on bargain contracts in recent seasons and used their time with the franchise to drive up their value and reestablish their footing in the NBA. So your thoughts on that, my friends, because again, Christian Wood was a major source of quotes as far as what he is interacting with both Darvin Ham and also as well Rob Pelinka, and both back and forth on that. He seems to be someone that's a little bit more important to the equation for a guy that just accepted a minimum contract. We all know this, by the way, but it just seems like the Lakers have either promised or are thinking about some big plans in the future for Christian Wood, Joe.
We discussed this, guys. We told you that Christian Wood is likely to go to LA should he not get the contract he wants, because he can showcase his talent in LA and there's no bigger arena to do that. And on top of that, there was an open position that he plays that was available. I mean, we should have probably guaranteed he would have been a Laker should someone have not given him a multi-year deal, which we were pretty clear here after a month that he was not going to get that contract. So he went to the right place to showcase his talent, to get whatever contract he wants to get after the season's over. And he's got to play nice. Can't be whatever he's been in 7 teams. So I expect him to kind of follow suit. So just so you guys know, we're not all negative here. I did like this particular subject in terms of Darvin Ham and Rob Pelinka. They were discussing the kind of like the culture of what was kind of coming together on guys that are. So Rui's been hanging out with LeBron all off season. Christian Wood, apparently the dialogue there has been clean. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say and interject. I told you back on Friday that they were doing the LeBron minicamp in San Diego and were based out of the Hard Rock in San Diego this past weekend. So obviously they came and already started playing to build that camaraderie, which you're talking about. Plus, like you said, on top of that, what they've done this summer.
Right. Now, the other part that was important, and in watching Winning Time, there was some segments in the show that pointed to Jerry Buss paying the players at that time absorbent amount of money to buy their loyalty, which at the time, the NBA owners, just like any owners in a league, anytime you start overpaying players, everyone starts to get, upset because now they got to pay their players the same amount of money, right? It's simple, supply and demand type situation. So the explanation on the AD situation. So there was discussions apparently with AD before he got the extension that, hey, AD, if you want this extension, we're going to need you to be, So what did we see this summer? We saw AD in the gym boxing, looking really, really lean, looking almost much, much bigger in terms of muscle development. Why? Because in that 3 months before he got the official extension, Rob said to AD and his agent, AD, we're going to need you to really kind of take it up to the next level. We need you to fulfill, and I'm paraphrasing here, I'm guessing this is what he said. We're going to need you to be AD that wins an MVP or at least the Defensive Player of the Year. And then we'll give you an extension, which is a risky proposition to a degree. You're talking about a guy who has had health issues that you're going to be giving him a lot of money when it's late into that contract. So those things I got out of that interview that were really good. And we're going to be able to say, in terms of Rob Pelinka's and the Laker organization mentality that hasn't changed since Dr. Buss has taken over the team, that this team will invest in you and reward you for what you've brought the team, because AD has brought a banner up to the rafters. LeBron has brought up a banner to the rafters. So that has to mean something for now and for future activities. And if you're ever wondering why we keep getting these all-world players that decide to come to LA or demand to come to LA, now you guys got a little bit more evidence here this summer on why. Why? If you're a teetering player, you come to LA, you'll get the next big contract. It's like playing shortstop for the Dodgers the last 5 years. Anytime anybody played shortstop for the Dodgers, whether it was Seager, whether it was Trey Turner, all of a sudden they get $300 million contracts. Well, when you come to LA and you got something to prove, Malik Monk becomes a fan favorite in Sacramento and gets a nice contract. You have Dennis Schroeder, who made a massive mistake turning down $84 million, but it was able to capitalize a little bit on that this last summer by playing well last year and getting the contract he needed in Toronto. So now Christian Wood, 27 years old. That's the other thing that was the last thing I was going to say. They reiterated that the youth of this team. We're talking about a lot of 27-year-olds.
Did he just turn 28? I think he just turned 28.
He just turned 28.
Okay, so guy just turned 28. You have 27-year-old D'Angelo Russell. You have 24-year-old Vanderbilt. You have Austin Reeves, who's 25. We talked about this, guys. The reason why there's a lot of excitement about this particular team is that we have a lot of room for error if certain guys don't come through. You have another guy that could come through if this guy doesn't come through, and they're young. The only worry I have is if Darvin Ham doesn't put the right combination of players in when it matters. He did it well in the playoffs. He didn't do it well in the regular season last year. So that's what we're going to be waiting on.
Once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. It is Joe Soro, Magic Man Sean Grice, and me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much for watching this thing. It's truly appreciated. We're talking about the press conference that was earlier today, as we're recording this, with Rob Pelinka and Darvin Ham. One of the things I want to note to you, Magic Man, is what Dave McMenamin reported, Dave McMenamin from ESPN. He said, Darvin Ham says that the team's top to bottom depth, which we talked a little about earlier, will allow the Lakers coaching staff to manage LeBron James minutes, not only game to game, but month to month, looking for spots in the schedule to grant James a reprieve in year 21. Ham joked that LeBron should be grandfathered in to make him immune to the league's new rest guidelines and penalties. Your thoughts? We've always talked about, of course, how deep this team is once they got all the acquisitions in place. That's notwithstanding. They have a bunch of quality players who can give you quality minutes on this team. The thing is, though, if LeBron is suiting up, and Joe and I are already probably shaking your heads, we're both probably already going to be, I already know what he's going to say, is that we are not confident that Darvin Ham will get the message and follow those guidelines and be smart. And, even if it costs us a win or two, be able to limit LeBron's minutes and not force him into a situation where it gets too much too soon. And you see what happened last time when he ran out of gas in the Western Conference Finals.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and it's fair to say that one of the criticisms, and I believe it's a fair one, Drill, we could justify it with evidence, is that at times Darvin Ham gets tunnel vision. He gets tunnel vision about lineups. He gets tunnel vision about rotations. He gets tunnel vision about minute staggering or not doing that, or, like you said, Gerald, just being very stubborn about certain vicissitudes or circumstances that are beyond his control. And it seems like what you want to see makes you blind sometimes. He needs to get LeBron as much rest as possible. Now, he's saying all the right things, but it's one thing to say it. But what does Joe always say? Don't tell me what you're going to do. Show me what you're going to do.
I thought he always says, let me see a photograph of your wife.
I wasn't there for that, so I can't speak to that quote.
Okay.
If he did say that, no comment right now. I have to really think about that one.
The reason why I said that is because
Joe, you don't need to explain yourself to me.
But no, he will anyway.
No, I'm explaining to the crowd. I'm explaining to the crowd. When someone tells me to announce their divorce, I need to see what your wife looks like.
There you go. I'm still waiting for the
t-shirt
on that
guys,
one.
at the end of the day, I say this to everyone, whether it's women, strangers, family. I am a guy.
Yes.
I am a man.
Yes, you're a man. Yes.
And I am a visual man. You know what that means?
Okay. All right.
Looks matter.
You're right.
Okay.
Yes.
I like looks.
Well, let's take that quick left now, because I'm glad
you second quick left of the day on this conversation.
But I'm glad you clarified that, Joseph. Thank you very much.
Well, there's this I don't know. There's this confusion, I think, in life. Some people believe certain things and they want to believe. At the end of the day, real men look at things and say, does that look good?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's has a particular like. My favorite is this. What does this look like?
Yeah, nobody ever woke up and said, yeah, hey, my preference is, like, wear this paper bag. Nobody ever says that.
All right, guys. Now get
Yeah,
this one.
going left. So back to Christian Wood, Gerald. Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, I would expect everybody involved in that to say that as well. But I mean, Gerald, if I went back and I looked at all the quotes that different GMs who signed Christian Wood probably said along the similar lines, but nobody brought him back. So it's up to Christian at this point, Gerald. It's up to Christian whether he wants to like. And Gerald, this is when LeBron needs to put his foot down. Like if he sees that, because Gerald, we know two things can be true at the same time, right? We've seen what happens when LeBron puts his foot down and then decides he needs to put it up your behind. You can either become somebody like Kevin Love, who at first is disgruntled and obviously hurt at something LeBron says, but he gets it in the end that LeBron was just trying to make him a better teammate and get through to him. It worked. They won a championship together. Or Gerald, it can go the way of Mario Chalmers, where if
Mario
LeBron, if
Chalmers!
Rio, I mean, if Joe talks about D'Angelo being the target, so to speak, for fans when things go awry. Oh boy, that wasn't pretty. So with Mario Chalmers, and it didn't end well. Now it didn't affect the Heat, but eventually Mario found his way out of the NBA, drilled, and eventually lost a pickup game to a fat schlub of a regular Joe. That really kind of embarrassed. I didn't mean that our Joe. It was another Joe.
Yes.
But yeah.
I've been called worse, believe me.
Oh, I wasn't referring to you, sir.
I know, but
he's been called worse today.
I've been called worse many times.
Regardless, it could go one or two ways, Gerald, and it needs to happen quick. If LeBron sees that he's not buying in, he's got to put his foot down and say, you know what? There's the door, dude. There's the door. Because we're trying to win a championship, and you're not trying to do your best to be a good teammate and follow along. Because up until now, Gerald, Christian Wood has followed his own path on the court and off the court. On the court and off the court. You can't follow your path on this team. You follow the path that's asked of you. And if you don't do that, there's the door.
Absolutely. And of course, some will say, okay, why are we making such a big deal about, a minimum player? Why are they making such a big deal at the press conference about a minimum player? Well, it's obvious that the Lakers have big plans for this guy, that yes, he is on a minimum contract, but obviously they do have plans for him to utilize him in many different ways. So we'll see what happens there. But last big thing I want to cover on today's show in regards to the press conference, again, something that kind of made me roll my eyes a little bit, is that Rob Pelinka on Anthony Davis. We believe in the character of Anthony Davis, just the person he is. Nobody in life can prevent health stuff happening unexpectedly. We think at 30 years old, he's heading into the peak of his career. So I ask you, Joe, is Anthony Davis heading into the peak of his career?
You better.
On that contract,
if you want to win a championship, yeah, you better start running into
Boom.
I love the Laker girls, Darren, but I don't get a chance to see them on TV. You have to go to the games to really see them.
Yeah, because you only see them like coming out of the commercial for like 10
seconds. I like Lawrence Tanter's introduction. It's just the Laker girls after they finish dancing. Anthony Davis is the apex of this whole thing in a lot of ways. LeBron is still part of that too, but if you have AD finally having that year where he plays 72, 75 games and is just the two-way player that he is, this changes everything for the Lakers this year. You would be able to hide so much of the little deficiencies in certain players with him playing the way he's playing. You cannot stop a guy with that kind of talent, a defensive juggernaut, and a player who can hit free throws as a big and drop 25 points a game. This is not Kirk Cousins, guys. This is when Anthony Davis is 25 and 12 and he's engaged, he wins games. He's a winner. He's won at every level because of that talent. And the only reason why we haven't gotten more is because he hasn't really been healthy enough to take it to that level. He's either ran out of gas in 2023, 2022 couldn't stand up, 2021 blew out a tire. 2020 was the anomaly to some degree, but there was a huge gap between season 1 and season 1A. So we don't really know how to gauge that.
And I got the guys from the Suns podcast to admit that if AD hadn't gotten hurt in 2021, that they both thought the Lakers would have won that series.
Well, it was obvious because we were down 1-0. AD went AD in game 2 and game 3, and it was dominant. And Phoenix is not the kind of team that would not lose that series. They've lost 2 series the last 2 years in disastrous form. I mean, you can say the last 3 years, too, if you count the finals. I mean, 64-win team getting bounced the way they did last year. Maybe, they lost to the better team, so you can maybe give them a little bit of leeway there. But 2021, they were 1 or 2 plays away from winning that, probably sweeping Milwaukee. They should have won that series. And then 2022, winning 64 games. Come on, you gotta win that. You gotta definitely win that year for sure, because I don't think Boston would have been much of a problem for them. So, but there's a lot of ifs, guys. We're in the if section right now of this pre-season. We're in the ifs, and as much as we want to stay positive and all that, unfortunately, Rob and Darvin are not good interviews. I've never really enjoyed their interviews. They're too bland. They're too happy. I don't like happy, and I don't like bland.
It's always the good ship lollipop with those two guys.
Yeah.
Good one, Sovereign. Did you see that Magic Suns podcast? If they at least clean their seats and freshen up their nachos. Hey, those guys were on last week with us here. They were really, really good. Magic Man was on one of their shows. They were actually pretty good. So I'm going to give them a lot of credit for hosting a good show. And you know what? Their audience is really not very happy with this trade, and not in the slightest. I think they see a lot of things that I see. I don't know. Magic Man, has a little bit more, I guess.
And Gerald, I just like to point this out just for the record, because
okay.
I think
actually it was the Nuggets. The Nuggets bench you think of more. Yeah, the Nuggets bench you think of much more highly than I do.
Yeah.
Not to say you're wrong. I'm just saying that what I see is different than what you see in it. So,
but I mean, I understand your logic. It's
and hopefully dicey for both of us that I am right in this situation. Yes. We'll just say that. But
so I mean, Gerald, I understand, like the idea behind what happened, and but look. Yes, it's true what Jamie was saying yesterday, that the Suns fans would trade DeAndre Ayton for a box of honey buns, but we couldn't even get a box of honey buns for Julius Randle, Gerald.
I mean, there's just relative value. I mean, they were in a hurry to get rid of them.
It is, but a number 1 pick versus a number 7 overall pick. Perceptually, it's completely different. Like even if Portland doesn't do a damn thing with Ayton, they can at least say, well, we traded for a first number 1 overall pick back in 2018, and he may be a bust with that team, but he's going to turn it around with us.
Well, it just seems to me like the old days back when I was working in consumer electronics stores. You'd have somebody buy the big boom box, but when they took it out back to their house, started playing it, wouldn't shut off. So it's this big loud boom box. So it's playing, and they don't know how to turn it off. So they come back to the store and they get a smaller, cheaper, less powerful version because they think that's going to ease their mind instead of just staying and figure out what with this thing went wrong. What could we fix in order to make that the best thing going that really would make our house really that much better as far as the sound quality is concerned. Instead, we got a lower quality. It just in this case, Yusuf Nurkic, who just I don't know, often injured, not as good on the offensive end, not as, maybe he can't move his feet anymore like he used to. So,
but he's not a
defensive end,
snatch. He's not a snatch like Aiden.
but it's just value. It's just value, Joe.
Sometimes-
I just don't. They got pennies on the dollar.
I
in
don't
my
think they.
estimation.
I at this point, DeAndre Ayton was a mental
I don't care if he's a
midget.
malcontent or not. They got
Get him
pennies,
out.
literal pennies on the dollar, Joe.
It doesn't matter. They have enough talent
Doesn't
now. They have enough talent on that
Okay.
team right now.
Well, I know where I'm attacking them. If I'm the Lakers in the playoffs, that's all I say. On the glass, down low, AD is going to have a field day if they don't do anything else.
Well, as long as you have, as long as you have Booker and Durant, there's a mental issue with both those players that you can tap into pretty quickly. I mean, I can only imagine what would happen if a Dennis Rodman type player was all up in their ear. They would shrivel like balls in a ice pond. They're so mentally weak that it's not that difficult, and it's shown in these games, in these important series. Yes, I'm sorry that when you're that close to winning and you can't close it, it's even worse sometimes. I mean, if you were constantly losing in the first and second round, it's a little bit easier to say, look, you don't have any longevity in this thing. But if you're that close and you can't close it, you have the number one seed and you can't get out of the second round, that means there's something mentally wrong with you. From a basketball standpoint, of course, you're not strong enough mentally to get past when it matters.
Search and destroy. I mean, who is the great Lakers shooter on the bubble championship team? Maybe you could say KCP. Maybe. I don't know if you could say great because he said
AD didn't miss a free throw until what the last game.
No, he meant from outside. I think he's talking about.
I mean, just like perimeter 3-pointers. I'd say KCP. Yeah, KCP.
Probably the closest thing to it. But even he in the playoffs didn't shoot.
See, that team busted.
But he did step up on his drive. That was really, really good.
The big problem that Frank Vogel has is that in his last year coaching the Lakers were a bottom 3 defensive team. And that's where Vogel makes his bones. Nurkic is not a better defender than DeAndre Ayton. And that's saying a lot, Gerald.
He might have been at one time, but not
he's
anymore.
Not in 2023, Gerald.
No.
He's not in 2023. I think we'd agree. Yeah. So, Ed, Gerald, let's be frank here. The roles have been reversed here. If you look at the roster, Gerald, the Suns have the exact same center rotation as the Blazers had last year. And the Blazers finished 29th in defense from the center position.
Actually, I do want to mention that KCP in the first 3 rounds was really good, above 40% from 3. In the finals, though, he wasn't good from the outside. But if you remember in those closing games, he had some really clutch drives to the basket that really helped the team to victory.
Lakers in 5, actually. I don't know why. This is weird. I keep forgetting about Rondo.
He was terrific. He was
I was the
last, wasn't I, Sean, on the train, the Rondo train, because he was doing so well.
Rondo,
you were, Gerald, but you finally got on it.
Yes.
We discussed if that Rondo in 2020 was shooting like that in 2010, the Lakers would have lost that final.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He was lights out, especially in game 6. Jeez, he couldn't miss a shot. So I'd say Rondo. Yeah, I'd say Rondo.
Rondo,
More
I think you're right.
impactful
Yep.
threes.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. Rondo was shooting out of his mind, and that was something that that helped. But also the transition game in that series was really good, opportunistic, and the defense that the Lakers were providing at times was really good too. I think that was some of the keys right there for you. But again, when it comes to what was happening earlier today, it was the press conference for Darvin Ham and also Rob Pelinka. And I think it just close this out, Sean, by hearing your and Joe's final thoughts on it as as best we can. Obviously, we got a lot of the coach speak, we got a lot of the GM speak, but there was a couple moments in there that hopefully will provide some inner light as far as what's going on with the Lakers as they head into training camp next week, coming out of the LeBron mini camp this past weekend.
Yeah, Gerald, there's an old saying, believe nothing of what you hear and only half of what you see.
Oh
So,
my gosh, that's even less at an NBA press conference, my friend.
yeah, exactly. Snippets of truth, like very like
First three
small.
rounds, Darren. First three rounds, he shot lights out. Finals, he was all
We
he was
didn't need it. We
30 for,
didn't need
yeah,
him in the finals to shoot like that though, because
but
AD was humming.
yeah, and he was great in transition and helped us out on defense. And yeah, absolutely, he actually did something a lot, as I mentioned, his drives to the basket in the finals was something that really helped us out. He helped us out in different ways that I think caught Miami off guard as well. But
Yeah. So a little good, like Joe was saying. I find the bland too. It's armored coach speak, GM speak. It's gibberish to me. Uh, the stuff about D'Lo, that's more about D'Lo than it is about Gabe Vincent, Gerald.
mhm.
I think I'll just reiterate. I I expect Gabe Vincent at some point to be the starting point guard for the Lakers. I didn't expect it to be at the beginning of the season.
Eli, I
Uh,
just want to let you know, my apologies, Sean. Eli, just real quick, their last preseason game is against Phoenix, and the second game of the season is against Phoenix. So I just wanted to let you know on that one. So that he was asking as far as when do we play Phoenix, and that was his.
well,
His
hey, we're almost a week away from our first preseason game against the Warriors.
I
So
know, my gosh. Back to our playback.tv/Lakers Fast Break. If you have not yet signed up for playback, I highly recommend it. I'm going to actually try and see if I can look in the archives for some of the best of Joe Soro during that point of time. So definitely going to go ahead and hopefully check that out. But yes, playback.tv/Lakers Fast Break. If you want to hear Joe and Sean uncut, with all the trimmings and all the bleeps taken out and just hear them as raw and as uncut as possible, go ahead and check out what they're doing today at playback.tv/Lakers Fast Break for the upcoming season.
it's not the crap house language. Let's be honest.
Oh no, it's
We
it's it's
we
R
use
plus.
yeah we use four-letter words as an emphasis. That's kind of what me and Joe both agree about cussing. Uh,
Absolutely.
Most of the time, it's unnecessary. Sometimes it is necessary to illustrate a point.
Kurt, you're right. Can we get us to 20 likes before we head on out? If it'd be truly immensely appreciated. It helps get more visibility for our show to a wider audience, which ultimately we're trying to go ahead and do. Joe, although before we head on out, I do want to hear your final thoughts. I know you had some detailed thoughts already at the beginning, but kind of close it up and summarize as far as the press conference for you today, because you said you watched every single minute of it while you were on the road, or listened to it at least.
Yes, I did. By the way, YouTube, you suck. There was like 50 goddamn freaking commercials in that 57 minutes. I get it. Okay. I'm not, like every 5 minutes, I kept having to press the skip button while I was in the car. And that's usually not a good thing to do when you're driving,
Are you
especially
talking
at
about
night.
U2 the band?
Oh my God. I
Because
mean,
they're playing the Sphere
I
this
get,
weekend?
every 10 minutes, but every 5 minutes, two
I love
commercials.
U2 the band. I'm sorry. I love their
Anyways,
music. Sorry.
look,
I'm not going to pay $300 or
I knew,
$400 for it, mind you, like they want this weekend at the Sphere, or $1,500. Yeah, but go ahead.
I knew I don't care about the Sphere.
I'll be at the Hawaii UNLV game.
I don't care about Vegas.
I know you don't care about that. That's already been well
Vegas,
established.
if Vegas falls into
Joe,
a pit,
stay on track. Stay on track. Stay on track.
Oh,
Joe.
Maui's beautiful. My heart goes out to you, Maui, each and every time. Please, if you can, donate to Maui Cares, MauiCares.gov. I believe that's correct.
the interview went as planned. We knew we were going to get a lot of rear end massaging. We
Oh
did
yeah,
get
kissing babies, the old
Yeah.
dog and pony show.
and but what's great is in sports is you got to prove it. There's a lot of noise right now saying that AD is shooting really well.
And he's working out really hard.
And he's working out really hard. And it's kind of like that whole description of, well, he's a good father to his kids. Really? Oh, so you want a drink for that? You want champagne? Like,
Yeah, it's like
you-
that. It's like that team that they dislike their starting quarterback so much. So when you go to interview with the offensive lineman, they say, "Oh, well, he's great in the huddle, commands the huddle. He's solid work ethic, comes every day ready to work." We hate this guy.
we have watered down so many things in life, and sports is even worse because you have $60 million a year players who still talk like that. You're making $60 million and there's a complaint about playing games. So with that, Darvin Ham, we've already said this before the interview, by the way. We already know Darvin Ham has got the microscope on him, at least for me, because he is really, except for health, which kind of plays a part in his rotations, he is the one that could screw this up very quickly. Very quickly. So, cliches aside, Rob's used car salesman bit aside, at the end of the day, if the Lakers win, we'll tolerate the snippets and the cliched crap, the hyperbole, all that garbage. Win the game, win the game, win the game. And the rants will be more about why the other team sucks. Because the rants seem to not want to stop. So I might as well just accept that. I didn't plan on being the ranter. It's just not what I wanted to do. I want to enjoy the games and I want to talk about the good things. But if you guys want the rants, then I got to give you what you want.
There you go. Absolutely.
But I'd rather rant on the other teams. I don't want to rant on the Lakers.
Joe, you'll never be a kingmaker, but you're the rant maker.
That means a lot to me.
I'll tell you what, though. Great conversation to close out the night right here at the Lakers Fast Break. You do have your press conference, your annual press conference. This year, Joe, funny how it's not that hard to find Rob Pelinka this time around. Imagine that. The coinky dink. You don't even need to go ahead and have your Rob Pelinka mask on, my friend.
No,
I'm gonna miss that. I gotta be honest.
I miss those days.
I'm gonna miss that. I gotta be honest.
He stayed away. I think he was worried about the booze and the distraction.
Remember the Hall of Fame? Who was it that was being inducted as far as on the Lakers? Or there was some type of Lakers ceremony that he was not there for, invisible.
Yeah, he didn't want to be a distraction.
And we were ripping on him for it. I remember that. Yeah, absolutely. But I tell you what, though, great conversation, and our chat room has been going like crazy late at night. You all get a ton of credit from us being the best Lakers chat room that's out there at the Lakers Fast Break. Kurt, Dante, of course, Serge, Lakers in 5. Check out his awesome channel. Go ahead and subscribe there. He runs a great channel as well. Truly appreciate Blue, Darren. Awesome. Thank you so much for the super chat. Intel Wild, thank you so much for the super chat as well. Kurt Affair, you're always laughing it up for us. Truly appreciate all the great jokes that you're providing for us. To our moderator, Serge, everybody in the chat. Sovereign, always great to have you back. Eli, I think you're a Phoenix Suns fans from what I gather, but it is always great to have fans from other teams who are very cordial and can go ahead and interact with our audience in a positive way. We always love that and always appreciate that here at the Lakers Fast Break. Truly appreciate the time everyone has taken for talking back with us and listening to us and watching us. Please subscribe today, as Joe is mocking me as we do. You know what? I don't mind asking
We need
100
that
times on the podcast.
Oscar music when you're thanking everyone.
They really like me. They like me. They really like me. Jim Carrey in that in the mask was really cool when he did that. But need I digress? But once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. We'll be back tomorrow. If any news should arise, we'll hopefully be able to provide that as well. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and give you a great Lakers chat. Our weekend is filled with content. Magic Man has not only one, but two team previews on the way on Saturday and Sunday, including Tony Jones on Saturday. Am I correct? Am I correct?
Yes.
Absolutely. Saturday night right there for you. That's going to be Saturday night at 7 p.m. Sunday night, it's Rel from We Talk Mavs, Sunday at 8 p.m. So we got the Mavericks and also as well Utah Jazz this weekend. Plus, on Saturday at 1 p.m., it looks like it's going to be Lakerholic Spotlight as, of course, you've got Mr. Laker Tom and Jamie Sweet, and maybe even Sean Grice and Joe may
I
join
like the
in.
new name. I like the new name that our esteemed colleague Nick, was it Nick Molina who said it?
Laker Nick?
Was it Laker Nick? Trader Tom?
Trader Tom? Yeah, he's been called that before. Yeah,
I think that's a better nickname. Trader Tom.
Well, I'll let him do what he likes to be called that. I don't want to hurt his feelings because he'll just yell on my ear.
I don't care about feelings. I'm talking about the name here.
I gotta hear it.
The name works. The name works. Trader Tom.
Well, I'll call him Laker Tom. Laker Tom and Jamie Sweet when they return to us on Saturday at 1. But we'll be back tomorrow for more great Lakers programming, as only we can bring to you tomorrow. Of course, also as well, the best Lakers chat room that's out there. Big shout out to you as always. And thank you so much for being a part of what we do right here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.
Rantastic. That is a great word.
I know. You had kind of some semi-rants. Not a true big-time rant.
Nah.
Not like Sunday.
No. Sunday was different. There was emotion on that one. This one is more